Greetings, my friend, and we are back in the gym today for the next episode in the whole Fitness Made a Heck of a Lot Easier series. I'm Matt Schifferly, and today we are talking about how to make it so much easier to build more muscle, strength, and muscular endurance with a fraction of the work and effort. So first off, the objective that we're trying to achieve when it comes to neuromuscular conditioning is either we're trying to build strength, which is essentially getting more tension in the muscles or being able to generate more muscle tension. We have muscular endurance, which is essentially bringing that tension to fruition for a longer period of time, and a combination of the two to challenge your muscular work capacity for the sake of building muscle, aka hypertrophy. Neuromuscular conditioning is one of those objectives where it's actually easier to achieve if you do things, quote, the hard way. But you want to make sure that you're making things challenging in the right way in your workouts. For example, if I want to build strength in my biceps, naturally I want to challenge it against something that is going to challenge my ability to put tension in the muscle. If I lift a 20-pound weight, then I have to generate a certain amount of tension in the muscle to lift it. If I lift a 30-pound weight, well, that's more tension, so therefore there's a big correlation between how much I lift and how much tension is in the muscle. But you also want to make sure you're not compensating in some way. I can make this exercise a lot easier in order to lift more weight, and that's great if my goal was to actually lift the weight. But my goal isn't to lift weight. My goal is to put more tension in the muscle. So that's why some people find it's easier to make the muscle work harder with a lighter weight by using stricter technique. You also want to consider what type of exercises you're doing. Because if your exercise is too unstable or requires too much skill and proficiency to do, then suddenly the ability to effectively put tension in the muscle and challenge how much you do the exercise can be severely compromised. So even though the exercise itself is very challenging and difficult, it can actually inhibit your ability to achieve the objective of putting tension in the muscle, doing it for a good period of time, or challenging your muscular work capacity. And this is why you're going to find that the exercises and workout programs that make it as easy as possible to achieve your objectives in neuromuscular conditioning are relatively bland, boring, simple techniques that allow you to work with either a good amount of resistance, because the easier it is to load your muscles, the more tension you can get into them, so you're going to get stronger, or something that you can comfortably push to a high degree of fatigue and just keep going. You're not going to allow a form breakdown to really compromise your technique. Even when you're tired, you can keep going if you want to challenge your endurance. And of course, the combination of the two, challenge your work capacity, something that allows you to really push to the point where you can really challenge your work capacity. When it comes to neuromuscular conditioning, there's a lot of fat that we potentially need to trim out. And it starts with always recognizing that, like all training methods, like with proficiency we discussed in the previous video, it's all about the process of creating a stimulus and then allowing adaptation to produce the results that we want. But we need work to produce the stimulus, but the wrong work won't improve that stimulus, and excessive amounts of work can actually inhibit that stimulus. For example, when it comes to strength training, you want to make sure that you're using exercises and training methods that make it as easy as possible to put a lot of tension in your muscles, but you don't necessarily want to be exhausting yourself with lots of volume and just pushing yourself to a high degree of fatigue in each set. Because if you take one set of squats to failure, well, now your ability to keep practicing the skill of generating that much tension is compromised because you're tired. So you want to kind of stay away from fatigue to a large degree, always saving a few reps in the tank and generate as much tension as you can with very heavy or strength-based exercises and programs. When it comes to endurance, same thing happens, only now you kind of go the opposite way, where you don't want to use exercises that require an insane amount of muscle tension because you're going to hit your limit very quickly. Instead, you want to use methods that you can keep going even though your muscles are burning and it's very uncomfortable, but you just keep pushing rep after rep and potentially set after set. However, even with endurance, we have to make sure that you are working as much as you can for muscular endurance, but once you feel like your endurance is really dropping off, you're done. It's not going to bring you a whole lot of benefit to just keep grinding out sets after sets after sets because your muscles have reached a very high state of fatigue and you're just continuing to beat that nail into the wood even though it's been hammered in long ago. And then furthermore, when it comes to stimulating hypertrophy, we want to reach a point of muscular fatigue and kind of like pushing yourself close to or near failure. And you don't want to have a ton of volume where you're always staying away from failure to a degree with each set, because now you're just making yourself tired, but in a way that's not really pushing your muscular work capacity. You're just basically wearing yourself out. Think of like going for a long jog. You're going to certainly make your legs really tired at the end of it, but you never really produce that much of a challenge to their capacity to both have endurance and generate muscular work capacity. You also want to make sure that you only have enough work that you're producing a challenge. And then once your ability to really produce that challenge is starting to fall off, you're done. So if you're doing pull-ups and you get a really high level of fatigue at 10 reps, and then on the next set you're at like 9 reps, and then on the third set you're like 5 reps, okay, you're done. Sure, you can always do more work and you can keep grinding out sets, but you've pulled that trigger on creating the stimulus by saying, oh my gosh, I can barely keep doing this. And now you're just doing redundancy and creating more work that doesn't really improve upon the stimulus you already created. And I want to remind you again, it's not just because the exercise is tough. You don't get results by working your tail off in the gym, you get results by creating a good stimulus. So just because an exercise or a workout program is kicking your butt, it doesn't necessarily mean it's working. And in many ways, just exhausting yourself is the lazy way to go through a strength workout, and a lot of coaches do this too, where they'll just drive clients into the ground, make them exhausted, because they both think, oh my gosh, I'm crawling out of the gym, that must have been a great workout. And this is why you always want to stay focused on that objective, generating a lot of tension in the muscle if you want it to be stronger, generating that tension or some tension for a good amount of time to generate muscular endurance, and challenging your muscular work capacity very quickly in order to stimulate hypertrophy. Anything that impedes that ability or doesn't improve upon that is just fluff that needs to be cut. It's also very important to distinguish the difference between performance goals in the gym and muscular goals in the gym. And a lot of times we get this confused where we're going after one goal when we actually want the other, which makes it so much harder to achieve that. So for example, if I wanted to strengthen my glutes and someone's like, oh, be able to really do kettlebell swings, and then I go into the kettlebell rabbit hole and I'm like, okay, I want to get really good at single arm kettlebell swings, for example. Well, at that point, my goal is not to get stronger glutes. My goal is to get really good at single arm kettlebell swings. And I'm assuming that's going to give me strong glutes, which it may or it may not. And if it does, it probably won't to the degree that I really want. So that's why it's very important to say, okay, yes, I want single arm kettlebell swings because I think they're cool and they make me feel good. Great. So you focus on that because it's a performance objective. But if you really are like, I just want my glutes to be made out of iron, then it pays to have a much simpler, more direct way to sufficiently challenge either the strength, endurance, or work capacity of that muscle and use whatever exercise performance helps you get there. Lots of work and blood, sweat, and tears workouts in the gym can also drastically hurt your results in another way, which is they require so much more recovery. Usually you hear of recovery as a good thing based on the old model of how we used to think that fitness worked, is that you go into a workout, blood, sweat, and tears, you bash, thrash, and trash the hell out of your body, which creates stress. And then you need to recover from that stress, and it's the recovery where you get the results. However, this process can happen a million times over and you never get any real results from it, because you don't get results from stressing your body. You get results from creating a stimulus. You're effectively feeding your body instructions saying, I need you to be able to generate more tension for the sake of strength. I need you to be able to generate tension for a longer period for endurance, or I need you to have more work capacity for the sake of hypertrophy. That's the stimulus. That's what does tell your body to change, not the fact that you're just crawling out of the gym and exhausted. But the big kicker is that when you've got all that stress, you need to recover. And recovery is another form of work, because recovery takes time, it takes physiological resources like calories and nutrition and stuff, and it takes energy from your body. And you don't get results from recovery, you get it from adaptation. However, your body will always prioritize recovery for the sake of your health and well-being. So while you're spending all those resources for the sake of your recovery, those resources are not being used for your sake of adaptation. This is how some people, a lot of people in fact, can bash, thrash, and trash themselves in the gym, and they recover adequately, but they never get stronger, they never build muscle, and they never improve their endurance. It's because they're stressing themselves out and exhausting themselves further, or using resources for recovery. But when you put in just enough work for the sake of a stimulus, so you're creating good muscle tension for time, for endurance, or challenging your work capacity, and then you're stopping when you feel your ability to do that is getting compromised, now you have more resources and you need less recovery for the sake of that adaptation, which is why you get much better results with less work. A multi-influential approach is also very important for helping you build strength, endurance, and hypertrophy. And this largely goes down to how many different ways you can progress in the gym for your workouts. Because a lot of times we get stuck fixated on a single metric of how much weight can you lift, or how many push-ups can you do, or are you pushing yourself to failure, for example. And all of these are great and they are certainly important, but when you fixate on just that and you ignore technique, you ignore stamina, you ignore tension control, you ignore many other variables that are also contributing to your ability to create a stimulus, now you're again trying to make big things happen from small actions. So instead, what you want to do is think of more of a holistic method of progression where you're, again, going after the objective, but you're not fixating too much on how much weight can I lift, how many reps can I do, or whether or not you're just lifting to failure. Instead, you want to make sure that you are putting tension in the muscle and you can actually feel the muscle contracting harder. Endurance, same thing. You can feel the muscle working for a longer period of time, really going through that burn and discomfort, and challenging the work capacity of the muscle. And this is why a lot of times I'll talk to people and say, yeah, but pushing to failure is not the best metric, because it's always like, failure of what? You know, if I'm doing push-ups and I'm breathing like this and turning 5 shades of purple, and finally after 20 reps I just collapse on the floor, yeah, I hit the limit of how many push-ups I could do, but I wasn't hitting the limit of how hard my muscles could actually work. I was more of reaching a cardiovascular limit, or a mental limit, or a technical limit. And many people talk about different kinds of failure. You want the failure of the actual muscle tissue itself to be the limiting factor when you're stimulating for hypertrophy. So make sure that you're getting more of a holistic approach of how many different ways can I approach my progression, range of motion, using better technique and control, bigger sort of mobility, tension control, making sure that you're getting many of your boxes checked to get as much out of the exercise, rather than fixating on just how much weight can I lift or how many push-ups can I do. Of course, it should also be said that a multi-influential approach goes outside the gym. Are you resting enough? Are you getting good food? Are you adequately feeding yourself? Something that a lot of people have trouble doing, especially when they're told that healthy eating or managing body fat is all about following very tight and restrictive diets. Not only is that potentially holding you back for a healthy diet or managing body fat, but it can be also inhibiting your ability to get stronger, better endurance, and bigger muscles. Sleep is also a huge factor to this as well. Sleep is a massive influence that a lot of people will gladly compromise for the sake of staying up late, doom scrolling or partying all the time. So you want to think of what are the lifestyle habits that are supporting your ability to create a stimulus in your workout, and try to minimize those that are inhibiting your ability to do so. And finally, personal alignment goes a long way at neuromuscular conditioning and your success in able to do that. And this is many different ways, but more importantly, it's about finding the right exercises, using the right tools, and finding workout programs that just seem to be the easiest way for you to achieve your objectives. This certainly happened to me years ago when I fell into the world of calisthenics. Suddenly overnight, I was getting much better results because I was like, oh yeah, it is so much easier for me to put a lot more tension in my muscles, to challenge my muscular work capacity, and to a degree my muscular endurance when I'm on a pull-up bar than a bent over barbell row. It was just easier for me to do that, which is why I got much better results. But you could have the opposite experience. You could have been doing push-ups like crazy in your bedroom for all those years, and then you get a weight machine and you're like, oh, this is so much easier for me to challenge my muscular work capacity or strength, so you're gonna get better results that way. Pay attention to your feedback. Pay attention to what your body's feeling. You want exercises that make it as easy as possible to create that stimulus, and you're going to get very powerful feedback every single time you do something new. Do whatever is easiest for you. It doesn't matter if someone says, oh, back squats are the best way to build up your legs. If you're doing lunges, for example, and you're like, wow, I can feel my legs working so much better with this. I can really challenge my quads so much easier without a bar on my back. Well, then you do the lunges, because that's the thing that's going to work best for you. And it's also worth saying that personal alignment literally means literal physical alignment too. When you have better tension control and better alignment with your joints and everything during the exercises, it's much easier to get a lot of tension in the muscle and to challenge your muscular work capacity endurance. But if your technique is off and you're kind of flailing out and your elbows are hunched up during push-ups and stuff, and you're like, man, you know, I feel that so much in my shoulders, or I feel this exercise all in my lower back, and it just feels uncomfortable and stuff. That's a good sign that you have some sort of misalignment about your use of muscle tension or even just your physical technique. That's gonna make it a lot harder to get what you want out of your training, even though the exercise is still feeling challenging. Once again, it's difficult in the unproductive ways. So this is where a coach comes into play, or a self-assessment with yourself on video, to make sure that when you do the exercise, it should feel as safe, as stable, and as comfortable as humanly possible, because that removes a lot of the barriers that limit you, especially from your nervous system, because all muscular activity is generated by your nervous system. So when you're more comfortable and you're more stable and you feel safer and more secure in the exercise, you can put a lot more tension in your muscle. You can engage yourself for a lot longer period of time, and it's a lot easier to challenge your muscular work capacity. And personal alignment goes a long way in creating workouts as well. I get lots of questions. People are always trying to, really Da Vinci code their workouts. Like, what if I did full body training and then I did split training, and what kind of split should I do, and how many times? For the most part, your workout program really isn't all that important. The biggest reason to follow a structured program is just to get in the work. That's it. All a good workout program does is make it as easy as possible for you to consistently and hopefully progressively create the stimulus you want. So if you find it's easier for you to create the stimulus you want with full body workouts twice a week, you do that. If you find it's easier to do that with push-pull legs 3 times a week kind of deal, you do that. Whatever is the easiest way for you to create that stimulus on a consistent basis is whatever workout program, tools, or exercises are going to be best for you. I've got one more key video in my series here on how to make health and fitness a heck of a lot easier for much better results you can actually maintain. I'm going to be discussing some of my favorite overall strategies that are going to make everything a lot easier for you and make every workout you do much more effective and easier to do for the rest of your life. See you in the next video. Be fit and live free.